Welcome to episode 185 of Level Up Your Career with APMG. Welcome to 60 minutes of live Q&A where your questions drive the show. My name is Stephan Brendel, and on behalf of APMG, I am your host today. My colleague Shanice is present in the LinkedIn and YouTube chats, so please let us know your name and the city from where you're joining. She will post a link for you to vote up the questions that you would like to see being answered, and of course for you to add your own. If your question is selected, your name will appear in the credits at the end of the show. So get yours in early and stay with us to see that happen. Today, we're going to discuss how to become a change manager. Well, it can be like learning to dance in a hurricane. You start with a few awkward steps, master the art of chaos, and soon you'll be the one leading the dance floor of transformation. Well, if things could be that easy. But luckily, we have a great panel of experts from around the world who can give us insights on what it really takes to become a change manager. Sounds interesting? Well, then let's get started and meet our panel. Joining us from Melbourne, Malini Jayaganesh is a highly experienced business relationship manager who specializes in nurturing high-performing BRMs and teams. She's regularly invited to deliver keynotes and presentations at professional and academic forums in Australia, USA, UK, and India. Her personal BRM story titled Walk Fast, Walk Far has been described as the most impactful presentation at BRM Connect in 2017 in Sydney. In her spare time, she writes about food, culture, and relationships. Welcome, Malini.
Thank you, Stephan and APMG, for including me on this panel discussion. Such a great topic, and dancing is in my blood, so I'm looking forward to this evening.
All right, thank you, Malini. And joining us from Amsterdam is Orlando Heijmerink. He's a trainer and change guide at Lagant in the Netherlands. His background was a practicing project manager where he rose to become director of projects and implementation at ABN AMRO, which is a bank. Passionate about helping teams and organizations with change, achieve results, and have a little fun along the way. Welcome back to the panel, Orlando.
Well, thank you. I'd really look forward to this this hour with this great expert panelist. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a great topic, isn't it? Ron Leeman is the founder and owner at the Highway of Change, where he delivers a range of one-to-one and small group services to help people cut through the rhetoric and focus on addressing real issues in real time. He's, of course, a regular contributor here on Level Up. Welcome back, Ron. And Ron's joining us from Chonburi in Thailand.
That's correct, where it's a bit breezy, but it's sunny, and the weather here is about 32, I think. So thank you very much for having me back.
You're welcome, Ron. Also with us is Mart Rovers, educating and coaching leaders, professionals, and teams. That's Mart's passion and is what he's been doing for nearly 3 decades now. Mart works for INTERPROM, a coaching, consulting, training, and education firm in the US and in Europe. Examples of areas he has specialized in are business relationship management, service management, information security management, and project and change management. He's looking forward to sharing his experience with you and to answering your questions. Joining us today from Washington, D.C., welcome back, Mart.
Thank you, Stephan. Thank you, APMG, for having me. And thank you, everybody, for watching this episode and joining us live. It's fantastic. And it's an honor to be with such esteemed panelists. Thank you. Tony Robbins once said, change is never a matter of ability. It's always a matter of motivation. Maybe that sets us in the right mind frame to get us going.
Oh, thank you for kicking us off with that quote, Mart. Always like to hear the quotes from you. Completing our panel and joining us from Copenhagen is Jesper Schreiner. He's an accomplished senior consultant with 20 plus years of experience in project and program management. With many years in major Danish industrial enterprises, Jesper has also served as managing director of the Danish Project Management Association. Jesper's expertise in IPMA extends to the half-double methodology, where he played a pivotal role as the first assessor on the half-double certification scheme. Welcome to Level Up, Jesper.
Thank you so much, Stephan. Thank you all. I've been really looking forward to this moment, to this day, and to joining you and to discuss this very interesting topic and subject. And hopefully I will also be able to answer some of your questions, which will be based on my own personal viewpoints and experience gained over the years from managing complex change projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesper. And our question master today is my dear colleague Suchitra Jacob, who joins us from the garden city of Bangalore in India. Welcome, Suchitra, and may we have a first question, please?
Hello, Stephan, and hi to all the panelists and, of course, our viewers. Yes, of course, you may have the first question. And to start us off, it's the question from Isaac Roy, who asks, does the panel have any advice on how to find the right timing and pace for change, as this can tend to be tricky?
Oh, great. What a great question. And I saw hands up even before you started reading, Suchitra. That's great. So let's start with Malini, then Ron, then Orlando, and then Jesper and Mart last.
Isaac, what you've asked is actually a very tricky problem and a very real one. And there are many things to consider. And I'll focus on one thing, which is about understanding, who is being impacted by the change and what else is happening in their lives. Because as a change manager, you might be focused on your change initiative, but it's highly likely that those who are being impacted by the change have various other changes that are impacting, how they work, where they work, etc. So I think it's really important, to take an empathetic view, get a total understanding of, what's it like to be in the shoes of the people who are impacted by the change. And at the same time, you also need to work out what the priorities are for your change initiative so that you can then strike a balance, between, delivering things at the right pace instead of overloading people.
Yeah, thanks, Malini. I like your point about the empathetic view because you never know if it's the right time anyway. It might be, maybe it's never the right time to find that out. But let's hear from Ron.
Yeah, this is a tricky question because pace is all about your stakeholders. Unfortunately, at the beginning of the process, when the sponsor or whoever is putting together the business case, they want their return on investment fairly quickly because they're going to be spending a lot of money on their project. So they expect a certain pace. Now, the change manager can provide that pace, but the stakeholders can't necessarily keep up with the pace. You can measure business readiness during the project life cycle on a cyclical basis to see if your stakeholders are ready. Unfortunately, if they're not ready, the instinct is to go live anyway. And the other thing is, I think I mentioned, the return on investment is what they're after. So they want a quick turnaround. The trouble is, if you push stakeholders too hard, they are going to resist. And resistance creates more problems because it takes longer to try and get that resistance down than it does to actually get them to join the pace that you want to be at.
Thanks, Ron. Some great insight here. All right, let's hear from Orlando.
Yes, I'd like to dive a little bit deeper from the answer Malini gave, assess the current situation and create a a good impact analysis. So on the one hand, is it just a team, or is it a department, or is it a domain, or is it the whole chain in your business area? On the one hand, and on the other hand, is it just the process? Are there any tasks, or is it more about is the impact of the change deeper, and does it contain attitude and behavior? And that makes a huge difference in timing and pace. And you have to take that into consideration before you can make the decision in a different order and different time frame.
All right, thank you, Orlando. And then let's hear from Jesper.
Yeah, thank you. Well, basically, there's never a right time for severe change. So I'm saying this just to make sure that please, you shouldn't wait too long. If you feel it's right, and of course you should make sure that you're actually ready to go for it as a change manager and a leader of the change. But don't wait too long. That can be a fatal mistake. So, and there will never be a right time, optimal point of time. That's my experience.
All right, okay. Thanks for that insight. And we hear from Mart.
I'd like to capture my answer in 3 words: build, measure, and learn. In other words, make short cycles, build small changes, measure those, and then learn from them and quickly to make the necessary adjustments if needed or when needed. And doing it this way, then you can bring it in a piecemeal fashion. And that might also help with dictating the speed of change. So short cycles in essence.
All right, thanks. Thanks, Mart. Ron, you would like to add something you said already?
Yes, I do apologize. Something I forgot. One of the biggest problems for a change manager is that they are normally brought into projects after there are problems, when things go wrong. Therefore, if you have a 6-month project and they're brought in after a couple of months or 3 months, what amount of time do they have before go live? They only have half the amount of time that they would have had if they had started at the beginning. So they have to try and pick up that pace with the stakeholders, who are probably the ones that are causing the problems anyway. So it's a real problem,
Okay. Thanks, panel, for highlighting this, looking from different perspectives. And I think, Suchitra, we should go to the next question.
Sure, we can. The next question is from Andrew Wilson. How can managers help people through the change process quickly to get to the new state while still allowing them time to process the change themselves?
All right. So thanks, Andrew, for your question. And we have Jesper followed by Orlando for a reply.
Yeah, thank you, Stephan. Well, basically, if you are to manage or lead a major and complex change project, it's basically all about, it sounds very simple, moving people from A to B. So in my view, it's about people. So the best you can do is to be comfortable with your people competencies. You need to be there, and you, if you are trustworthy from day one, and you are able to communicate why this change is necessary. I think that's my experience. That's the most important thing, that you are there because you are needed to interact with the people on your team and to explain why this is necessary, etc., etc., etc. That's the most important thing for you as a change manager, to be there and to know that this is about people and it's about people moving from A to B, and it's difficult, and you will be faced with resistance and all other different kinds of uncertainty. So be prepared for that, and be prepared for meeting the people who really need you all the way through the transition and until transformation is completed. So that's the best you can do. That's my best advice. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for your advice, Jesper. And then we go to Ron.
The best way, I think it's a bit of another problem like before. I think it's a bit of a problem for the manager to help. But I think what I would say is the best way that people can process the change themselves is through, and I use this word probably too much, involvement, or call it co-creation, or call it collaboration, call it what you want. Get them to join the team in some sort of capacity that helps them gain knowledge about what the change is all about, because they will then come up to speed very, very easily if they're part of the process. And also, on another note, it will reduce the amount of resistance if they understand what's going on, they understand the change.
Okay. Thanks, Ron. And let's hear from Orlando then.
Yes. Yeah, what I really find is a very useful theory, which is from Chip and Dan Heath, is the When Change is Hard, Switch, the book Switch. And they explain the three strategies: motivate the elephant, direct the rider, and make it as simple as possible. And that means that you are on three scales, on three aspects. You're influencing the context and the people who are subject to change. So motivating them and create a context that makes it really, really simple to start a new pattern, and give them a motivated and nice, empowering picture for the future.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks, Orlando. And let's hear from Mart and then Malini.
As I mentioned in my opening quote, it's always about motivation. So therefore, make the change personal, meaning what's in it for the person that is going through the change. In other words, you help them the best to make it personal and to focus on, what's the bright part of coming through this change, going through this change, and when having gone through that change. So make it personal.
Okay, make it personal. Thanks, Mart. And Malini.
I concur with everything that my fellow panelists have said. Andrew, I'd also like to just throw in another dimension to this matter. And that is, I think, people managers today, those who have responsibilities for managing other people in an organization, I think they have to get their teams accustomed to the idea of constant change that has just become a reality. So encouraging continuous improvement, encouraging a growth mindset, and actually building people's resilience and flexibility and adaptability, it really makes a huge difference to how they respond to change initiatives that come their way. So this is not just about a particular change initiative. I'm talking about a change management capability, or a capability to change and stay relevant. I think is actually really critical.
Thanks, Malini. And Andrew, I hope that this full load of competence helps you to get a sufficient answer for your question. And I would like to give some attention here to our listeners and to our viewers. So Manoush is joining us from the UK. Hello, Manoush. Good to have you here. And we have probably more people, yes, from Barume, from the Democratic Republic of Congo. Hello, Barume, good to have you here. And Sylvia from Berlin, which is my hometown. How is that? That's great. Yeah. So hello, Sylvia. Thanks for joining us. And then we have Stella from Nairobi in Kenya. It's good that you guys are all here on the show, watching us and providing us with live questions. And that's the point. That's the whole thing about it, yeah? You look at us, you join us, you listen to the answers, and you raise your own questions. And guess what? They come up on the show as a priority. And so please, Suchitra, what live question did we already achieve?
Yes, we have a live question from Janet Johnson in the UK. What would the panel say is the perfect mindset to be a perfect change manager?
Oh, the perfect mindset to be a perfect change manager. Somebody wants to know it all here. Jesper, please kick us off and then followed by Ron.
Yes, I'd like to do that. And again, based on my own experience, I think if you are to accept a role as change manager, leading a complex change, from a mindset perspective, you really have to believe yourself that this change is right. I would say my best advice is never jump on a change train if you don't believe the destination is right, because you will, if you don't believe it's right, you will lack some important amount of motivation, and you will need that simply to transfer your motivation to the team, to the people you need to move from A to B, referring to my last answer. So that would be my best advice as in terms of what basic mindset is needed to be a good change manager.
All right. Well, then let's hear from Ron. What mindset is perfect?
I think you have to be a bit of a rebel, to be honest, because a change manager obviously has various roles and responsibilities within the change initiative. And you have to be here, there, and ever. So, as well as being a bit of a rebel, so that is standing up to stuff that you don't think should be done, or standing up to managers if they think something should be done and you don't agree with it. But you have to be able to have an honest and open mindset, yeah, because it's pointless keeping anything from your stakeholders, because they're going to find out anyway, because the grapevine works wonders within an organization. So openness, honesty, little bit rebellious, not too much, because you've got people to report to and you've got people to answer to, but you just got to be that little bit different. Unlike a project manager who's very, very focused on milestones and has a very analytical sort of way about them, the change manager has to have a really kind of flexible mindset to be able to do what they do.
All right. The rebel. Okay, I got that. Thanks, Ron. And let's hear from Orlando then.
Yes, I couldn't agree more with you, Ron. You explained it so well. So I would say there's one, I would say it's a rebel with empathy. A rebel with empathy. So empathy for all the people who are being impacted, and it's about leadership. So take care of the people who are impacted, and then you will succeed.
All right, thanks, Orlando. And Mart, would you like to complete?
Just quickly, great question, Janet, and a fantastic answer so far from the whole panel. I found a quote that I thought was maybe helpful with this question. Without a struggle, there can be no progress. Frederick Douglass once said that. Be problem focus oriented, right? As in, there's always another curveball that will be thrown at you. So be prepared for that, and through that, by catching still that curveball or still hitting it, you still make progress. In other words, have that mindset of it, and there will always be something that will be the unexpected, the unknown, and that's the mindset, I think, to make the move and to get through this. By the way, there's no such thing as perfect. Let's state that as well.
Yeah. Thanks, Mart and Janet. You can see this is all what the panel said. You probably won't find that anywhere in a CV written down, but I think it was very good advice for everyone. Suchitra, I think we should just move on to the next question.
Sure. We have another live question from Shahid Abiola. What are the steps required by a change manager if they are joining a team that is in the middle of an existing change process?
All right, I think we touched a bit on that in one of the previous questions already. What happens when you jump in the middle of it? Ron, please kick us off, and then followed by Malini.
Sorry, I have to laugh because this is one of the biggest experiences that I have had when I was on the contract market, is being brought into change initiative, even here in Thailand, being brought into a change initiative quarter of the way through, half the way through, whatever. The first thing is you need to try and find out what's been agreed beforehand, because you have to kind of work with what's in the business case and what's in the other documents that have been prepared by whoever, probably just a project manager and a sponsor, no change management involvement at all. Then you have to basically, once you know what that is, look at any documentation, any kind of surveys that have been done on change. What's the word I'm looking for? Resistance and so forth. Okay, so you get up to speed, and it's kind of what I call establishing the baseline. You have established the baseline when you move in to a change initiative that's halfway through. Yeah? Then you have to kind of think about, okay, what can I do in the time I have left, to actually turn this project round if it's a problem. Yeah, it normally is a problem if you're brought in late anyway. So you have to say, okay, of all the skills I have and all the tools and techniques I have in my toolbox, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. So maybe some more communication, set up business readiness sessions, do more on change readiness, set your stall out. This is what I am going to do. Okay, I can't do anything else because it's all been done already, and I'm restricted to what's in the business case and what I can do. So to get you through to go live, these are all the things I'm going to do. But you have to make sure you do them, and you do them well, because you're kind of the savior, if you like. Right. You're brought into a project as a savior, yeah. But unfortunately, you can also become the whipping boy if you don't actually manage to do what you do. So they can say great stuff, Ron, or they can say you screwed up, Ron. So you have to be careful.
Yeah. So there are no numerous steps that really can be written down. Malini, what's your view on this?
I hear your pain, Ron, because I've found myself in that situation many, many times. And Shahid, there's really, not too much to add to what Ron said, but I just want to reinforce a couple of things. One is you're the new kid on the block. Use that to your advantage. So ask questions fearlessly. So perhaps they have not really. You can ask them, what is the imperative for this change? And they may never have necessarily clarified that for themselves. Sometimes they have just jumped into the change process without really truly understanding what the goal is, what the plan is, and so on. So by asking questions, you will actually help to drive clarity for everyone, not just for yourself. And you need to operate really smart. So it's not necessarily about following a particular framework or methodology as is. You might have to actually look at what's already there. So use these as levers, right? And that's why I think change management is both an art and a science. So we have methods and techniques to guide us, but using our discretion to adapt and apply as required is the thing that differentiates ordinary change managers from the really good ones.
Yeah, thanks, Malini. I often wonder what is the situation when you jump in the middle of a change process? That there must be several reasons for that, but I think you're best off, Shahid, by looking at the metaphor of an orchestrator. Because you have to find out which instruments are playing wrong, what happened here. But thanks for great answers. Mart, you would like to add something?
Just quickly, thank you, Stephan. Just quickly, if they invite you halfway through, my first question would be, why do you need me all of a sudden? Why did you start even without me? Well, that sounds arrogant, but It's as in, what is it, that problem you want me to fix that you didn't need me for in the first place? So I would definitely start there, and then helps with, focusing on the problem at hand, maybe.
Thanks, Mart and Sahid. Great advice came in here for you, so thanks. And I think we have a next live question, Suchitra. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. We have a question from Oswin. What type of leadership styles are appropriate for implementing change effectively?
What type of leadership style? So again, I hope this is not like the perfect mindset or the perfect leadership style, what we will see. I think we start with Orlando, then Jesper, then Ron, and then Malini.
Yes, I really love this question. So that depends. Firstly, it depends on the context. So if you're within an organization where it's a crisis, you need very decisive leadership. And if you're in a crisis where you have time for change, maybe a servant leadership or collaborative leadership fits well. That's the first part of my answer. And the other is that effective leaders usually are able to apply and to show different kinds of leadership depending on the context.
All right. Thanks, Orlando. All right. I forgot who was next. I think it was Ron. No, Jesper. Okay, Jesper.
Okay, thank you, Stephan. Very good question, and an important question to discuss, talking about leadership and what is really needed here. Basically, I find that you need to, maybe that relates more to mindset, but what I want to say is you need to be one who actually embraces uncertainty and still be able to make the project happen. Because a severe and complex change project, there's a lot of uncertainty tied to it. So you need to be good at and comfortable running complex projects. The second thing is you are a leader of a transformation. And again, referring to what I said before, it's so important that you yourself believe that this change and is right. If you feel that you are losing your, not really believing whether this is right, you should seriously consider jumping off the train because you will be automatically get weaker, and that you cannot allow that to happen. And the third thing is you really need to be a good people manager. You need to be comfortable navigating in a complex environment of different stakeholders and a team that you need to serve, and you need to be open to, and you need to take whatever discussion is needed, but never doubt that the destination is right. So you need to balance that, be open for discussions and what things can be done in different ways, and still be rather determined the destination is right. Defend that.
Thanks, Jesper. I'm always wondering what is one actually is, or how can you describe when a change has been implemented other than it looks like things have never been different than before, right? I think it's something like that, dancing in the hurricane, Ron, right? Mm-hmm. Ron, how about your view?
Let me cast my mind back to the last session I was on, which was 162, episode 162, which was all about collaboration. And that is the word. Yeah. And what I mean by collaboration is not just a single collaboration with one team or whatever. It's the change manager collaborating with a sponsor. It's the change manager collaborating with the stakeholders. It's the sponsor collaborating with the stakeholders. Yeah. So you've got a three-way kind of collaboration process in place. Okay. And it's can't be autocratic because that gets people backs up. Okay. It has to be collaborative. It has to be joined up. And the change manager needs to guide the sponsor as to what the sponsor's responsibilities are, and then the sponsor must go out and start communicating with the stakeholders, and then the stakeholders can then feed back information to the change manager. So if you get that triangle right, sponsor, change manager, stakeholders, in terms of collaboration, that is what I would call good leadership.
All right, thank you. Well, it's orchestrating, isn't it, in a way, with all these meshed network factors.
Exactly.
Thanks, Ron.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ron, and let's hear from Malini then.
I think those who lead change effectively need to be visionary. So they should be able to, come up with a vision for what the future needs to be, without being inhibited by how things are done today. Right? That takes a particular kind of leadership to be able to think strategically. But at the same time, when it comes to implementing things, they need to be very pragmatic about what is feasible in today's environment. We need to be able to meet our people where they are, and then take them forward. So balancing that strategic vision with pragmatism, I think, is really important.
All right. Thanks, Malini. And completing this round of answers is Mart, please.
As far as leadership style, indeed, I want to build on what Ron just said and you, Stephan, when you said orchestrator. Be the orchestrator, be the connector, get the right people in the room, because inclusion and that sense of belonging, I think, is enormously important when going through a change.
Right. Yeah. Very true. Thanks, Mart. And let's look at our viewers again. Mridula joining us from India. Hello, nice to have you here. And there's Alexandra from Nigeria. Oh, this is really a show that is really going around the world here. And there is Francis joining us from the Netherlands. Hello, Francis. We have Oswin here who just brought us a live question. And see, guys, this is how it works. You bring us a live question. We bring it up to the panel. The panel doesn't have much time to think about an answer. They can't really prepare when you bring this live up, because that's all the time they have is while Suchitra is reading their question, which shows you how competent these people are. So let's move on with the next question. And I suppose it's also a live question, right?
It is. We have a live question from Stella watching on YouTube. Does culture play a role in the ability of a change manager to deliver?
Well, yeah, well, you see, Stella, this is it. They need a moment to think about it. But I saw Orlando and Jesper raising hand at the same time, then followed by Ron. So let's start with Orlando, Jesper, and then Ron.
Hi, yes, we could talk days about this question. So it's actually a great challenge to answer this very shortly. So it plays a really significant role. There are all kinds of cultures, innovative cultures, or result-oriented, or more a family culture, or more a hierarchical culture. So that is really the basis of your analysis and of the starting point from where you're working on. And that means there are different angles you're going to be working on in order to change from A to B situation. I always use the metaphor of the well-known iceberg, and above the iceberg you can see all things happening, but the real work and the real hard work for a change manager is what is happening underneath the water and underneath the iceberg, and what kind of patterns are there now, and how can you influence them for the future. I tried to be as short as possible for this one, but it's very interesting.
Thanks, Orlando. And let's hear from Jesper then.
Thank you, Stephan. My short answer is definitely yes. It's a rule far more than the exception that leading a complex change will involve some kind of inside knowledge of culture. And you don't need to go to work across borders here, because I'm mainly speaking about organizational culture. Because again, you have to move when you're leading a change. You are bringing people from A to B, and that involves behavioral changes, and the behavior of employees relates more or less to the organizational culture. So something has to be changed to some extent. So yes, definitely, it does involve culture.
Yeah, I truly believe that as well, Jesper. But let's hear from Ron then.
Culture is one of my favorite subjects because there's so much difference in people's views. The first thing is you can't view an organization as having a single culture. It's not possible. No organization has a single culture. What they have is many groups of people that form their own culture. Okay. And when people move from one group to another, they do everything they can to fit in to the culture of the new group. Okay. So the first thing you need to do is identify what kind of culture is the word. Okay. What kind of culture do the stakeholder groups have that you're dealing with? Okay. If you can identify that, then you can do your change interventions around that. The whole issue of changing culture, I think, is a bit of misnomer. Is a misnomer because if you want to change culture quickly, they say culture change takes 2 to 3 years. Yeah, but if you want to change culture quickly, the easiest way is to get people to change what they're doing. Yeah. So forget all the sort of, wonderful speeches about culture change and stuff like that. Just go through your change in the normal way, get people to move from, what they used to do from what they have to do in the future, given what's being implemented. And what will happen is the culture of those people will change as a result of doing things differently.
Yeah, thanks, Ron. I would just like to add, because culture play a role in the ability, if you imagine, and I know this from my own experience, that if there's a difference in some areas of the world to admit that there is an issue, for example, and you say that in front of a group. In some cultures, this is a problem. Mm-hmm. So my advice is, if that happens to you, Stella, just don't take it as it is mentioned in the group. Give these people a call afterwards, because one-on-one, they will tell you what the issue is, but they won't tell you in a group. That's just my advice here. And Orlando, you would like to add something?
Yes, to give a short example. So I'm now working in a healthcare environment, and this culture of this organization, they're highly successful, and this culture is harmony driven. It's about us. It's about family, and they are in a world where they are. There are going to be more requests, and it's going to be more competitive and complex. So they have to move to a more result-oriented culture. So that means that is a total different organizational change than if you would move from a hierarchical culture to a more adaptive culture, if you can imagine that.
All right. Thank you for that. And Suchitra, can we actually get to the next question?
Sure, we can. We have a question from Suzanne Smith in the UK. I have 30 years experience of major change, both in my personal and professional life. How could I cement my knowledge officially to enhance my career?
Yeah, this is level up your career. So how can I put this in? Ron, I dropped you in the last question again, but I'll give you a first kickoff now, and then followed by Malini.
Okay, 30 years. That's not quite as many as my number of years I've spent in change. This is the question of, do you need to go on a course that will certify you as a change manager, Or if you have 30 years experience without certification, is that better? Yeah. I've never been certified. I've never been on a change management course ever. Yeah. I do not believe that certification is the be all and end all. I think it's a recruiter driven and organization driven thing that they think it's a good idea to say, we want a change manager with X, Y, or Z. Okay. But if you've been in the business for 30 years, for goodness sake, I've been in the business for 45, by the way. So 30 years, you will have all the experience necessary to actually perform your role as a change manager. The problem comes, like I said, is where organizations will say to recruiters, we want certification X, Y, and Z. That is always the challenge for somebody who is not certified, but somebody who has oodles worth of experience. So I would say if you're pushed into a corner, you probably need to get some kind of certification because that's what people are looking for. Not the ideal.
Ron. And Ron, that's a lot of people who are actually appreciating that there is something like a change management certification like the one that APMG is offering, because it gives them a very good baseline. I agree with you that you have to build on top of that, but it's a very good baseline. But let's hear from Malini next.
I hear what Ron is saying, but my view, based on my personal experience, is that the certification can actually be helpful for your own self in a few different ways, right? So you've been working quite successfully, very intuitively, and that's wonderful. But if you're looking at leveling up your career and now you want to do something, take on a more senior role in your organization, you'll have to be able to articulate your value, right? And I think when you do a change management certification, it'll actually provide you with some structure, that'll help you to actually say, this is what I did and this is what the outcomes were, right? So it'll help you to craft your narrative. The other thing also is, I think there's probably, given the length of your experience and the breadth of your experience, you probably could also consider looking at roles that are not necessarily titled as change manager, because change management is a leadership competency. And I think your skills and experience will be so useful in so many roles. So I think, think a little broadly, think a little creatively. And if you do go ahead with the certification, use that to articulate your value and to structure your thinking.
Yeah, I agree. And it's just, Malini, if I may add, it's not just the change manager who gets on that training. It's also those who are impacted by the change. Very useful if they, let's say, have a change management foundation, because then, yes, you're talking the same words. You have the same terminology and you have the same structure behind that. Okay, next on my list is Mart, Rovers.
Well, Suzanne, with that much experience, it should be no big deal to earn your credentials through a training class or a certification course. To add that to your most likely long list of accomplishments already, I'd like to add that besides that, I would say it's time for you to start sharing with the rest of the world as far as what you've already achieved and what you know. So be active on LinkedIn or YouTube or any of the other meaningful platforms as far as information sharing. So become active, start sharing your knowledge, and start the conversation. That's another way to cement your experience.
All right, thanks, Mart. I think we have time for one more question, if we may, Suchitra.
Sure, we have a last question from Nick, who's watching on LinkedIn. Which change intervention is the panel most proud of and why?
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Great question here. And I think everybody should give us a short answer on what is the greatest stuff you've ever done and why you're proud of it. And I think we start with Orlando, Malini, then Jesper.
Well, there is actually there are two. It's appreciative inquiry, and it's the open space technology. And also the open space technology is all about engaging people, engaging the people who are there with energy, and give a real boost to change. And with the open space technology, all the people who are there at the moment are the ones who are relevant and define and give direction to the change what is needed at that moment. So piling up and using the energy which is there in the organization, I really believe that.
Thanks, Orlando. Malini, what's your view?
So the change interventions that I'm most proud of are where I have actually made a difference to how people embrace change. So it's not just about the outcome of the specific change initiative that I was managing, but it's also about all the subsequent change initiatives that they encountered and how much more open they were to it, because I had worked on building their change capability. So I think that's something that I always keep as my goal when I manage an initiative. It's not just the immediate outcomes, but what's the long-term vision, for change capability in this organization.
Thanks, Malini, for your insight, and let's hear from Jesper.
Yeah, actually, what I've done is what I'm most proud of when I look back is I was once leading a complex change project, which was all about implementing an outsourcing strategy. We are now back in the zeros, and that was a major change, and it was rather complex because it was all about software development, and the organization that I was working for at the time, they had all internal software developers, and they were highly skilled, and everything was running well. But the company felt that it was time to enhance, and they decided to go for an outsourcing strategy. Long story short, we winded up finding a team in Russia, and that was really about behavioral change and about cultural change to make that transformation happen. And we actually succeeded. And what I've shared with you here during this level up session is actually mainly based on the experience that I gained from that, and also shared with the rest of the organization. So, thank you.
Thanks, Jesper. And let's hear from Ron.
I guess loads, but if you were to push me into a corner and choose one, I would say communication. Deciding what different kinds of communication you need, and trying to understand who you're delivering it to, etc., and creating enough communication so the majority of your stakeholders actually receive the communication that you sent out, because every stakeholder likes a different way of receiving information. They either want something on their mobile, or they go to a center space of some sort, or they want a email or whatever. Everyone wants something different. So if you can actually understand what type of communication people want and the way they want it delivered, that's kind of my favored, whatever it is it was called before. The question, I can't remember.
All right, many thanks, Ron. And let's hear from Mart.
I'll keep it short, Stephan. Common theme through many projects I've done is the change of culture, change of behaviors from reactive to proactive. I think that's a common theme, and I think that's looking back what I'm quite happy with to get that accomplished in many organizations.
All right. Thanks, Mart. Thanks, panel and viewers. I think you now learned to dance a bit better on a hurricane, right? To go through all these change manager capabilities. Panel, it's time for our closing remarks, and I would like you to just give us one phrase, one sentence to close the remarks, and still put in everything you still wanted to say but couldn't because I either dropped you off or because the question never showed up. So let's start with Jesper.
Oh, that's the most difficult question that you gave me today. I think short answer is embrace the uncertainty, make the project happen, be trustworthy, and believe. Be sure that you believe in the change, that it's right for the organization.
All right. Thanks, Jesper, for your short answer, and then Mart.
My answer would be a quote from Tom Ziegler, who once said, "Change starts with you, but it doesn't start until you do."
Great. Thanks, Mart. And let's hear from Ron.
Yeah, change. They say change is hard. It is in a way, but if you can actually simplify that hard, it becomes easier because the stakeholders don't understand maybe some of your language. So keep it simple.
Yeah, keep it simple. Thanks. Thanks, Ron. And Orlando, your closing remark, please.
Yes. We're always very often talking about resistance and when it's hard. Well, there is positive and negative energy. When there's negative energy, we call it very often resistance. But both positive and negative energy you can very often use and apply and put into certain context to get it useful for your change. So don't be afraid of resistance. Both positives and negative energies are relevant to be successful.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, good point with the energies. Malini, your view.
I think it takes a lot of passion to sustain a career in change management, and some days will be very difficult. So please surround yourself with people who believe in you and who believe in the work that you're doing and who will keep your spirits up. So for example, you can connect with all of us on LinkedIn, and stay in touch or connect with other change managers through professional forums and support each other. And all the best to you.
Yeah, thanks, Malini. And I think that's a great advice, Suchitra, isn't it? Because we had so less time, so many questions, so much engagement from all the viewers. So what do you think?
Oh yeah, I agree with you, Stephan. It's been a great episode, and a big shout out to our viewers, an amazing audience. We've had so many live questions, and of course, I've not chosen all the questions, so don't worry, we will get back to it at a future episode. So thank you once again.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you to all you out there. You are our producers for all these excellent questions. You've done a great job. Watch out for your name in the credits if your question was selected. By the way, over on our website, you can search for answers to more than 2,000 questions in the meantime. It's a comprehensive free resource connecting you with more than 200 experts from around the world. Video, if that isn't your first choice, you can also listen to the audio versions of the Level Up shows on your preferred podcast platform. Please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything, but it really helps new folks discover our content. On our next show on Friday, the 15th September, we want to shed some light on what it takes to become a business analyst. On Monday, the 18th September, we will dive a bit deeper into how to build a culture of collaboration. And on Friday, the 22nd September, we'll have a level up in German language about authentic leaderships, which I'm hosting, authentische Führungsstile entwickeln. The shows on Friday start at 1400, shows on Monday start at 8 o'clock, all times are British summertime. Please subscribe to Level Up, and we will send you a personal summary of what's coming up and how you can join us here on the panel and level up your career with APMG. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day and see you next Friday.